Hello! In this video I am doing an in-depth review of Scent as world building in the Shadowscent duology by PM Freestone. If you want my more general review of these books, you should just head on over to my previous video. Light spoilers ahead! For the first 3 pages, we only have scent descriptions. Nothing visual is described. It's all about the smells of her home and the desert and how that permeates through their life. And my favourite moment in The Darkest Bloom is one of these scent descriptions where, I think it's towards the end of The Darkest Bloom actually, where Ash and Raquel are having a bit of downtime in their adventure, and Raquel asks Ash about his life in the capital, and he starts describing it, but he doesn't describe the visual aspects. He describes the smells and the different smells at the different times of day, and the description was just so rich and so inviting that I really felt like I was there, and it felt like a much more effective description than something visual. It felt much more solid, much more concrete. Clothing of the nobility was never particularly described. When you have a novel like The Priory of the Orange Tree, for example, where the nobility are just dripping in seed pearls everywhere, it's the perfume that the characters wear in this book that tells you how important they are. And when we take a moment in the story to visit a side character's mansion, Esseric, it's not the fancy things and the paintings and all the stuff they own that are laid out for us to drop our jaws on the floor, but it's the smells. So like the curtains are infused with rare plant blossoms, and they have jeweled boxes of solid perfume, because your container has to be just as extravagant as the contents. And scent also describes each person's personality. So when we're first introduced to the scent keeper, Safine, for example, she's described as being smoky and dark like the underworld. And we start to get an inkling about who she is and who she is in the story. But then, for example, when a palace guard, tries to stop Raquel, he's described as smelling of layer upon layer of old sweat, which it was a horrible description. It really made me feel for poor Raquel, who was stuck under his armpit. So scent not only describes your personality, but it describes your status in the world, and it also describes your status in the story, which is different things. And status is again reinforced with the criminals and the punishments that are handed out. Now, Freestone doesn't go into a lot of detail about how you could end up with this punishment, but the criminals have their noses chopped off and then the holes filled with molten metal. Oh my god! But the most prominent use of scent in these novels is in the language. It just permeates everything. The proverbs, sayings, idioms, swearing, insults. It all has a basis in scent. To be honest, at the beginning of The Darkest Bloom, the frequency with which Raquel in particular uses scent-based sayings and swear words was really annoying. Like every single line of dialogue she had for at least the first half of the book had something to do with smell. There was always a proverb, always a swear word, always. Too much. But towards the latter half of the book and into the second book, Crown of Smoke, it was toned down a lot. It was still there, but it was a much more comfortable level for me. The frequency that scent showed up in the character's language, especially in Raquel's, just showed how important scent was to the culture and to Raquel's life in particular. Cinder and sulfur was my favourite, polite swear word. Swearing and idioms in the Shadowscent duology include, but are not limited to, it'll be a sniff, plain as stink. They're a bit smoke-brained. Stenches, rancid, reeking rot. Scents be damned. A fool who couldn't smell the perfume from the notes. And at the end, when Ash and Raquel are mixing the ingredients to make the antidote for Nisai, it stinks and it has all these smells, and then she adds the last ingredient and suddenly the concoction is scentless. And for anything in this world to be scentless is ridiculous. It's almost crazy, which really emphasizes the importance of this thing. I have a theory that that scentless thing is related to the religion somehow. But my favourite way that Freestone gets across the importance of scent in this culture is through the way the characters process grief. And there's a moment in the Crown of Smoke book, the second one, where one character is grieving and the other one gives them a stick of incense. And this stick of incense, the smell in particular, represents the stage in the grief process that character is experiencing. And then you have different sticks of incense, different smells that represent the different stages, which is the official way. But then there's also the unofficial way, where the characters remember the way the character they have lost smells, or they remember the person's favourite scent. And it was such a subtle element of world building that in a lot of books I think would be forgotten about. But it was this really touching, really lovely moment of the importance of scent in the culture. Thank you for watching my analysis on scent as a world building technique, and I hope you will join me in my next video where I will be reviewing The Crown of Smoke. But until that time, I will see you in the comments.